what are the top 5 blind spots we see when it comes to your cross-border finances? Working with foreign nationals on work visas and other foreign-born individuals, we see a lot of misses. Let's call them that. I guess kind of what we're calling blind spots. And so in today's episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 blind spots that we see when it comes to your cross-border finances and taxes.
Yes, all is not lost though, dear listener. Many of you are indeed getting things right, but the ones that you're missing can have a significant impact on your finances. But before we go on to the rest of the episode, let me just give a small pause here and request you to please give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. And you know what it helps others who are looking for this information find us because of the 5-star reviews you give us. And also, if you're on YouTube, you will see that Jane is actually wearing the International Money Cafe t-shirt. It's a cute t-shirt we designed, and we would love for you to go to YouTube and take a look and let us know how you like it. Right, Jane?
Okay,
Now,
Manasa,
yeah,
you
now
didn't
get back.
have. Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess you didn't have to talk about my fashion sense, but hey, what does it matter? I love the t-shirt. So anyway, let's
It
get
looks good
back
on you.
to. Thank you, I appreciate that. So let's get back to the blind spots. And by the way, we see a lot, and we really, really sympathize with your situation because we've seen it, we've experienced it, which is the reason why we do what we do. So the number one blind spot that I see is assuming your situation is exactly the same as somebody else working in a similar position. This happens a lot where, and Manasa and I have done this in the past. I'm in this cube. My next door neighbor is exactly this, doing the same thing that I do. We're probably making about the same kind of money. But the difference is, in my case, as a foreign born national, I ignore my immigration status. I ignore my cultural background, which we know informs your life and financial decisions. Ignore my non-US future plans, because not every one of us is planning on retiring here. And so if you put all that together and start comparing yourself with, let's say, US born individuals, you end up feeling like you're way behind, but you're not. It's just that we need to look at your situation through different lenses. And if we do that, it does make it a little bit easier to sort of stay in your lane and actually get things working.
Right. Right. In fact, that kind of helps me jump to the second biggest blind spot that people miss, which is a sense of false economy, you know? And let me explain what I mean by that. This is when you don't pay for professional services because you think that you're saving a lot of money by doing that. That is maybe not the best thing to do. And especially when you are looking for professional services for tax filing, when you have assets overseas. Now, there are many over-the-counter tax softwares, which people use and which may be okay for most people. But if you have assets overseas and foreign, bank accounts and other trusts, and maybe you have shares in foreign corporations, you will have to report those to the IRS. And maybe these over-the-counter tax softwares are not equipped to handle that. And not only that, you may then go to the second pet peeve that I have is you may go to AI to look for answers. And don't get me wrong, I like AI, but you know what? We are not there yet that you may be getting information from these sources which are unique to your situation. And maybe you're missing out on other opportunities where you don't know consequences of doing or not doing something. That's also a sense of false economy. And then also, immigration questions. Really, these are not something that you want to ask your friend, ask AI, you go on the internet and search for things. Yes, you can do that to get a sense of where you're at, but for the exact answers to your specific situations, you need to be talking to an immigration attorney and to other finance and tax professionals who know this cross-border space. So that's my pet peeve. Also, false economy, Jane.
Yeah, and the way I like to think about it is it's the cost of doing business. We've
Mm,
come a long way. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to live in this country. If it means paying somebody a couple thousands to get the exact advice, to me, it's absolutely worth it. And it's something I put in my budget. Anyway,
mm,
the next blind spot that we see, and I see this one a lot when people arrive in the country and they are new. And part of it is I know you're dealing with a lot of other issues. You're trying to settle down. You're trying to learn the system. But I think the worst thing you can do, and I get it, is where you start comparing everything to back home. And yes, I get it. That's the only lens that you have to look at things. And you can do that, but please don't assume, for example, that something like as critical as financial planning, the way it's practiced in the US is the same way it's practiced in your home country. So, for some of those really big decisions, taxation, finances, immigration, please, please, please don't look at it. Don't compare it with what happens back home. Know you're in a new system. And the only way you're going to succeed is to immerse yourself in this system. It's okay to talk to folks, but find the right people to talk to. But again, keep thinking it's not business as usual. And if you don't know what it is that you need to do, it's okay. We've all been in that situation. It can be done. Just don't keep comparing to what happens back home. And one more on this, I think after a while people stop doing it. This is kind of fun one actually, is where you compare the cost of things back home. You know, it's like, oh, I used to buy that for $5. I do the conversion here and it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to spend $100 on this one item. It's okay. We're in a new system. And the best thing you can do is say, that was a different system. I'm lucky to be in a new system. So let me start adjusting and learn how things work in this country. Manasa, does that make sense?
yeah, totally. You know what? Actually, I think that it's a very hard one to overcome,
Yes,
especially when if you are from a country where the exchange rate is you know very, very different. Like, for example, if you are from India, which is where I'm from, and I came a long time ago, but I still remember that even then, you know, it was like 30 rupees to a dollar or something. So every time I spent a dollar, I used to feel like I'm spending 30 rupees on something, which it's something that it takes time to overcome, I suppose. But, it's a good habit, like Jane said, to not do it anymore.
sure.
So, yeah. But working off of what I said earlier about false economy, the next blind spot, the fourth blind spot that I want to talk about today is ignoring your assets overseas. I mean, this is something that I just can't tell you how many people miss this stuff. In fact, we work with many people when we even ask them about their foreign assets. Even to this day, they are like, but why do I have to report them? But because they're over there, I earned them when I was living there and I don't, I'm here. No, the IRS's rules are that if you have foreign assets, and those could be, your bank accounts, your fixed deposits, your rental properties, your mutual funds, and your holdings in foreign corporations or foreign partnerships. All of those get reported on your US tax return. And you just cannot afford to ignore those because guess what? Failure to comply with those requirements just lead to horrible penalties. It's like, if you got a gift of 100,000 from a parent who's not a US citizen or an uncle, whatever, and if you're misreporting it, the penalty is 25% of that. That's just nuts because all it really takes is for you to file one form. So ignoring assets overseas is a huge blind spot. And I mean, it kind of also then goes back to what I was saying earlier about working with professionals. And that kind of is sort of tied together. So ignoring assets overseas, you have to file your FBARs, your FATCA reporting, and of course, fix if you have foreign mutual funds and things like that. Make sure you're filing everything so that you the clock on the statute of limitations is setting for those information, and you're not subject to high penalties. I don't know. I could go on and on all day about this, but I guess I have to stop here, Jane.
Right.
Yeah.
So the key thing to your point is I like to keep saying this. US taxes you on worldwide income. That's
Mm,
it. And I think as soon as people understand that, then you understand why Manasa wants you to report everything. So full transparency is really what's being called for here.
yeah.
Okay. Number five. So biggest number five blind spot that I see is ignoring estate planning. What I find anytime I ask people about this, they go to, I don't have millions of dollars, so I don't need estate planning. And I have to explain to them, yes, you do. You don't need $1 million to need to plan what I'm looking for your life. And so what I explain to people is when it comes to estate planning, it all comes down to think if something happens to you, if you're incapacitated, who's going to make those critical life medical decisions for you? Who's going to make those financial decisions for you? And the minute I start talking about that, you can kind of see the light go off. It's like, oh, you're right. I don't need millions of dollars to have somebody be able to make some of those critical decisions for you. And then once we get past what I call the basic estate planning, of course, if you have kids, you don't need millions of dollars to have to plan who's going to be the guardians of those kids. And the way I explain this is there's already a plan for you in place made by the government or the state, and you're probably not going to like that plan. So to get around that, let's put a plan for you in place where you're the one that's making these critical decisions. If something happens to you, you have to leave the country in a rush, or you're in some kind of a problem, who's going to take care of your kids? Who's the guardian of the kids? So that's critical. And then when you think about, and this is the other thing I'll say to people, your family makeup, right? If let's say you're in a situation where you have mixed marriages, and situation when we say a mixed marriage, we're talking about different citizenship, right?
Mhm.
Different rules apply. Think about your immigration status. Who can be your trustee? Who can be your beneficiary? So do not ignore estate planning the minute you get into the country. There are some critical decisions that you need to make and critical things that you need to have in place. And again, this is one that I see a lot of people ignoring. But once we fix that, or once you understand that, you'll be in a much better situation. The other bit that I want to talk about as far as ignoring the estate planning, and we've been seeing a lot of questions on this, is where we talk about estate taxes. And again, folks will say, oh, it doesn't matter, Jane. I don't have 15, 16 million. But I'm like, if you're a non-resident alien, I hate to use that word, but that's what IRS says. And you end up having to leave the country and you have what we call US situs assets. This number could easily come down to 60K. And so it's critical that you talk to somebody who understands, again, cross-border planning, and they can help you with not only understanding this, but also putting critical aspects in place of what you need based on your situation. I think
Right.
we have another episode on estate planning, so we can always
Yes.
come back to this later. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, that was really something that we need to think about, because you know what? It's all good when it's good, but when it starts not to be good. And speaking of that, there is a bonus blind spot, which, if you are on a work visa, you want to hope that things go as planned. But if it doesn't, then you have to make sure that you're prepared rather to leave the US and put into place everything that needs to be done at that point. So, remember that is also a blind spot.
And actually,
Anything else?
Manasa,
Yeah,
let me say this on this last one, and I like that you added, you kind of snack in this bonus because of what's happening today in the
yes,
country. We're seeing a lot of people actually saying, I don't think I'm going to be here a long time, even though I plan to. So we've gotten
yeah.
a lot of calls on this. So what we've done, we've actually put together a checklist. It's a 52-page checklist that walks you through if you're planning to leave the US at some point on a work visa. Here are all the critical steps. Here are all the things you need to plan for. And you can sort of go down the checklist saying, okay, I've planned for these. I've planned for my accounts. I've planned for my, I don't know, for my money. I've planned for my taxes. I've planned for my house, my real estate. And so what we'd actually say, and I think we should put a link to this, is if
Mhm.
you're on a work visa and you want to start preparing that you're going to leave the US or you may have to leave the US, you might want to grab this checklist. It's going to be on the IM Cafe and the store. Go grab that checklist and you can start using it to prep for this kind of situation if it ever arises. Better be prepared, is what I'm going to say. And sorry, you can go ahead and
No,
finish.
no,
I just
no.
wanted
I
to
think
put
that
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 in. Yeah.
was, yeah, I think that that's great that
Okay.
you brought that up, because you know what? We spent a lot of time putting that checklist together, and it's based off all our experience working with many different foreign born individuals on many different work visas, that eventually, at some point in time, if they decide that they don't want to stay in the US anymore and want to go back, oh my God, I have to tell you, even if we say this ourselves, that checklist is a good one. It's 52 pages, dear listener, and it just kind of walks you through a timeline of what you need to do and how to plan for things and what to do even after you've moved out. So it's a great checklist. So I think, Jane, that I am going to actually conclude with that. Go to our website, the theimcafe.com, theimcafe.com, and go to our store, and you will see this awesome checklist that you can grab. And, we actually have a good deal going on right now because we are still celebrating 50 episodes. So it's 50% off. So please look at it. Let us know what you think of it. If you did happen to grab it, we would love to get a testimonial from you. And thank you for listening. Until next time, bye.